Hello, beautiful friends. It's Tracy. Welcome back to today's projects. And without further ado, let's get started. These vintage style firecrackers are recycling or upcycling some core tubes that come off of my 10-inch deco mesh rolls. Now, when I do wreaths, I have a ton of these rolls, and I decided this season, to keep them so I could make some firecrackers out of them. So let me show you how I did it. Okay, I got these napkins at Hobby Lobby, and it has a pack that has red and white, and then the blue with the white stars on it. So for the core tubes, they're each a little bit different as far as how big they are through the center. And so what I did is I just took my serrated knife and just cut those in half so that I could have 2 of those. So I ended up with 8 of the fireworks for this project. Okay, so this napkin is a 2-ply napkin, and so I didn't have to paint it white. I just left the second ply on there. I did not take it apart. I wanted these stripes to go vertical, so I figured out where I needed to cut it, then just cut that napkin down with my scissors. Very easy peasy. And then I'll use some Mod Podge to adhere the napkin to the bottom part of the tube because the blue with the white stars are going to go at the top. So then once I get all of the red and white napkin and the blue, I added this cute little stuff right here. That is what I'm going to be working on for my little whimsical firecrackers, kind of in the vintage theme, because I added some laces and that kind of thing with the tag. Now, these pit berries are something that I use a lot in my projects. I get them off of a garland. At Hobby Lobby, I twist them off of the little grapevine thing that you see there. I'm going to be using that as well. That is going to be my wick. And then I wanted the whimsical part of the pit berries for just to be like the sparkle of my firecracker here. I'm also going to be using some of the fine Excelsior that I also get from Hobby Lobby, and then to grunge it up just a little, just to give it, just take a little bit of that white and red where it's not so bright with that. I just use my vintage photo distress ink and my finger dauber just to give it a little bit of the brown look that I like. And so again, like I said, that what I'm sticking in there, that's kind of like the wick, and that is recycled from those pit berries. When I take them off of a garland, they're individual picks that are wrapped around that, and I'm just using that to my advantage and just sticking that in there and just gluing it. I know that this tube is hollow, and so there's not a whole lot to substance for it to stick, but everything's sticking on its own. I'm just making these for myself, and I thought that I would share how I did it. I'm gonna add some adhesive spray and some snow swirl glitter just to give them a little bit of sparkle, and I just like that for my projects, but that is definitely optional. All right, so then now I'm going to make a small tag for my each of one of my fireworks. I'm going to use Boom and USA, and I had hand lettered first, and then I was like, oh no, I want a little background. So I pulled out a couple of stamps that I had in my stash, and one is kind of like a signature. There's really nothing that it says, and the other one is actually like a paint splatter. And so I'm just taking my black Sharpie marker and just hand lettering, boom, and then also USA. And then I just make 4 tags. Since I did 8 fireworks, I'm just doing those all at one time and just adding the distressing that I like the age look by just ripping them, just giving them the age look by tearing the edges, giving some distressing with my vintage photo distress ink. And then I'm going to crumple them up and then add them to the side of my little firecracker. I also go ahead later and also give them some adhesive spray and a little bit of glitter. I'm using some hemp cording and just some laces and trims. The fabric I'm using is a muslin, and so those laces and trims and that muslin gives it that vintage feel that I like. And for my vintage style firecrackers. For this God Bless America USA woodcraft, I'm starting with this USA shape. Now, I think I got this from Joann's a few years back when they were clearancing them out, but this is just an idea if you have a USA shape and want to use this technique. I'm going to be doing some napkins, and I'm going to be using this God Bless America sign that I got from Hobby Lobby. Okay, so the first thing that I did is give the background of the USA coat of white paint, and then once that was dry, then I went ahead and gave it a layer of Mod Podge because I'm going to be ironing on those napkins. Now, like I said, those napkins came from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to be using 2 of the red and white as well as 1 of the blue for the stars up in the corner. So first I just make sure that my Mod Podge is all dry, and then I'm going to start pulling apart the plies of my napkins. Now, I saw this trick from another creator. They took a piece of Scotch tape and put it on the back layer and then pull it up. It kind of helps pull those layers, those plies apart a little bit easier. So I just wanted to share that tip, pass that along. And so, like I said, I am using 2 of these red and white napkins because 1 was not long enough. So I just took my little Cricut Easy Mini Press and just pressed out any of the wrinkles. I had to be very, very careful not to snag or tear the napkin. I carefully laid out my napkin on my USA, making sure that I had it over the entire piece from the top of Washington all the way down to the tippy or the bottom tip of Texas. And so then I'm just trying to line up my stripes, kind of finagling it just to get the best way to do that. And so I take a piece of a parchment paper and my little Cricut mini press. This is just my little mini iron that I use to do my little projects like this. And this is called the Mod Podge heat transfer method. If you're not familiar with that yet, you put your Mod Podge on there, let that dry, and then take your, like I'm using a napkin here, and then a iron. I'm just using my Cricut mini press just to do that. And then I just kind of do it in sections, just make sure that I go all the way around, get around those edges really well, because I want this napkin to stick around or stick to it around the sides. And so then for that second napkin, I just line it up the best way that I can. And so then I just take my little iron and then piece all of that together and just make sure that I cover all of the states up at the top, get all the way up there at Maine, and then make sure that Florida is covered as well. So this next step is the burn method. And so I just want to say proceed with caution, because this may like scare some people, but honestly, I was very in control of this. I wish I would have cut a little bit more of that napkin off. Because the less that you have, the better it gets. And so I am just going to be, just take my little lighter and just start. I wish I would have cut a little bit more of that off, but I was really in control. I'm like, oh, yikes, I don't want this to get away from me, which I was honestly in control. I don't want anyone to freak out and leave me a nasty comment. I was really in control. Nothing was, I wasn't going to catch my craft room on fire or anything like that. And so, like I just mentioned, I wish I would have cut a little bit more of that napkin off. But it just kind of fizzles out on its own. I had some water nearby, but this is something that is really good if you have a like a piece of wood or something like that that you want to Mod Podge a napkin onto. This little burn method just gets in those little bitty nooks and crannies and gets all of those pieces off of there. But again, make sure that you proceed with caution, because I don't want anybody to, harm or catch anything on fire. All right, so then now I'm going to add the blue part of the napkin. And so I had taken off the back part, the 2-ply of the napkin. Well, then I could see my stripes through there. So then I was trying to finagle it the best way that I could. And so I ended up painting the blue part and then Mod Podging the napkin on there. Well, that kind of like faded out my stars. So then I ended up layering on the napkin again and just doing Mod Podge over the top of it. And that just worked really good. I mean, this is just really a hand created piece. Every piece that I do is individual, and I just put my own little, my own little spin on just different things. So here I'm just penciling out the section that I'm going to want to paint, and I just have some primary blue paint and just paint that, and then I'll go back later and add napkin on top of that. This has like 3 different napkins on it, but hey, it works for me. Whew. Finally got that blue part on there the way that I like it, and I'm satisfied with it. All right, so for the God Bless America wood piece, I came from Hobby Lobby, and so I just painted red, white, and blue. I added some polka dots to each of the letters, either with the end of my paintbrush or a stylus. Makes the perfect polka dots. I just dip it into the paint, and that leaves my polka dots pretty consistent if I do it like that. I'm going to add all of my little whimsical touches that I like, as far as the dots and some squiggles. I'm going to be adding some vintage some antique wax to the stars, just to kind of give those brown look, just a brown look. And then also for the shading, I just took my vintage photo ink and just went around each of the letters just to give it a little bit of distressing. And then for the blue and the red, I just took my white ink pad and just went around it. And I'm just using a little finger dauber for that. I also add my little squiggles and then also my black Sharpie marker, which I like to do. I like to outline my crafts because I like that. It just really kind of makes my painted projects pop. And then also what I'm going to do is just add some white stars. They're like rusty stars, but they're white. I've had them on hand for many, many years. I'm not quite sure where I got those because I just had them in a plastic container and I thought that they would be perfect for this little piece. And so then I give everything a good spray with my polyacrylic spray, and then I just glue the wood piece to my USA wood shape just with my Titebond quick and thick glue, and then just some hot glue. And this piece I just love it so much, and I hope that you do too. Sometimes we are lucky and find these cute signs in the store that we can just add some ribbon and a bow to and make it extra cute. So I had this sign. I picked it up at Michael's a few years back in their Patriotic Americana collection, and I thought that I would use one of these sign extenders from Deco Exchange to put some ribbon, some mesh, and some cute ribbon on it and just make it a door hanger. So I'm starting with a sign extender. Now these can be found over at Deco Exchange. They're from Sincerely Creative Mom. If you are following her, she and Deco Exchange teamed up and have these sign extenders available, and they are just a great way to add just a little bit of length to a sign just like this, or something else that you may have that you want to add a little bit of length to. So I took the glue and E6000 as well as hot glue and glued that down. I let that sit overnight, actually for a few days, because I went and moved on to another project. I wanted it to really bond to that. Then now what I'm doing is just adding some pipe cleaners in between those holes. And once I start putting on my mesh, I discovered that I want to add a few more pipe cleaners. And so that's what I do. So I have this 10-inch deco mesh. Now this came from Joann's, and I love the country, whimsical colors of it and everything. So I'm cutting it at 12 inches. I don't want it to, the sign for me is the focal point of the whole door hanger, and so I just want to accent it. I don't want it to be overbearing like a big wreath or anything like that. So I cut these at 12 inches, and then I use the cruffle technique. And if you are not familiar with the cruffle technique, you just roll over each end, curl it, gather it in the middle, and then just I use a clamp to help me with that. Just roll it over the ends, then gather it in the middle, and then I just offset them a tad so that I can get the deco mesh in there. And so I ended up using a total of 5 pipe cleaners, and then I add that to my sign, and I just love how this is looking so far. So this 2.5-inch blue with the star ribbon also came from Michael's, and what I did is I cut that about 10 inches, and I'm sorry, it's just a little bit off out of the frame, but I cut that at 10 inches. I did not want it to be too overbearing for the sign. As I mentioned, I want the sign to be the focal point. I just wanted to add some mesh and ribbon just to give it a bit of just an extra touch for the sign. So then this red and white gingham ribbon is one of my favorites. It comes from Hobby Lobby, and I cut that at 10 inches as well. Then I dovetail each one of those, and if you're not familiar with dovetailing, you just bend over the edges and then cut it at the V, or cut it at the end to make a V, and it really makes a nice end for your ribbon tails. So I'm going to put this in each one of these ties. So I have 5 ties. So I have 5 of these sets of ribbon that I'm going to be adding to each one of these ties. These, well, I call the ties, but just the pipe cleaners, and then just kind of fluff out that ribbon as I go along. And then for an extra bit of a country whimsy, I pull out my sisal twine that I got from Hobby Lobby. I make several like small bows of those, just doing some loops, tying them off in the middle, and then I just add those to each one of my ribbon bundles just to add a bit, just some extra texture to my ribbon bundles. And then I'm going to make a bow for the top. I just cut, several pieces of ribbon for that, just crisscross them, make one of those sisal twine bows as well. And then I just add that to the top of my sign there in the corner using some glue and my stapler.